In a stone fireplace in the Jordanian desert, archaeologists found the charred remains of a flatbread, more than 14,000 years old. Humans didn't even figure out farming until roughly 4,000 years after that loaf came out of the fire. Bread, in other words, is older than agriculture itself. So here's a question worth sitting with. If bread kept people alive and strong that long, why does today's loaf leave you dragging by 3 in the afternoon? The people of Scripture weren't eating that loaf. Theirs was dense, whole, mineral-rich, and modern science is only now catching up to why it worked. Today we're breaking down 12 biblical breads built to rebuild strength, steady blood sugar, and nourish a body living well past 50. One was carried into war because a handful could keep a soldier moving for days. Another is sitting in a grocery store near you right now, built from a recipe over 2,600 years old. Let's start with the one built for the worst conditions the ancient world could throw at a person. Number 1. Hardtack. Would you trust a piece of bread that's still good to eat after 20 years? That's not a hypothetical. It's hardtack. Flour, water, and salt, baked low and slow until every trace of moisture is gone. It's the reason armies and sailors survived campaigns lasting months without a single fresh loaf. Roman legions marched on a version called bucellatum. Civil War soldiers called theirs sheet iron crackers and tooth dullers. Sailors called it worm castles. For reasons your dinner table probably doesn't need explained, weevils loved it as much as anyone, so soldiers learned to tap it on the table and soften it in coffee. Not glamorous. Effective. Scripture doesn't hand us a single bake this verse, but the principle runs straight through the wilderness narratives. Food stripped to its barest form, built to sustain rather than please the palate. Without yeast or air pockets diluting the dough, every bite delivers a concentrated dose of the grain's natural iron, zinc, and magnesium. 3 minerals aging bodies grow measurably less efficient at absorbing. Here's the gap worth noticing. Old hardtack used coarse, unrefined, stone-ground flour, nothing stripped away. Most long-life survival crackers sold today lean on bleached flour and preservatives to get their shelf life, which means you get the durability without the mineral punch. To make it, mix 2 cups of coarse whole wheat or barley flour with a half teaspoon of salt and just enough water to form a stiff dough. Roll it flat, score the surface, and bake low and slow until completely dry and firm throughout. Soften a piece in warm broth or olive oil before eating straight off the tray. It could double as a coaster. Stored dry, it can last for weeks. If that's what bread looked like when survival was the only goal, what did it look like when the goal was feeding 5,000 people with nothing but a boy's lunch? Number 2. Barley. There's a grain in your grocery store right now that the FDA officially allows companies to advertise as reducing your risk of heart disease. Not a supplement, not a prescription. A grain ancient farmers were feeding their families 3,000 years before a single clinical trial existed. That grain is barley. In the book of Judges, a barley loaf tumbles through a soldier's dream and flattens an entire enemy camp's strength that looks unimpressive on the outside. Centuries later in the Gospel of John, it's barley loaves, not the finer wheat available at the time, that Jesus multiplies to feed 5,000 people. Twice, the humble grain gets chosen to represent power that shows up exactly when it's needed most. Modern nutrition explains why. Barley is loaded with beta-glucan, a soluble fiber that slows how fast sugar hits your bloodstream and physically binds to cholesterol in your gut, dragging it out before it can settle into your arteries. That's the actual basis of the FDA's heart claim, around 3 grams of beta-glucan a day. and you're looking at measurable drops in LDL cholesterol. For anyone over 50 watching their numbers at the doctor's office, that's not folklore. Barley also runs deep in magnesium and selenium, two minerals aging bodies lose faster than they replace, both essential for steady energy and muscles that don't quit halfway through a hard day's work. Most barley sold today, though, is pearled the outer bran and germ, where most of that beta-glucan actually lives, has been polished away for a softer texture. Ancient barley bread used the whole, coarse grain, so look for hulled or whole barley flour if you want the real benefit. To bake it, mix 2 cups of whole barley flour with a half cup of warm water, a tablespoon of olive oil, and a pinch of salt. Knead gently, shape into a flat, dense loaf, and bake at moderate heat until golden. Eat it warm with a drizzle of olive oil. Some bakers fold in crushed barley grains for extra texture and an even higher beta-glucan dose. Barley never needed to show off. It just quietly outlasted the fancier bread on the table, which, coincidentally, is exactly what's about to happen to your gut health. Number 3. Sourdough of the Patriarchs. Ever wonder why your grandmother's homemade bread never seemed to bother her stomach the way a store-bought loaf bothers yours? There's a real answer, and it isn't nostalgia talking. Unleavened bread gets most of Scripture's attention, but the everyday loaf on a patriarchal household's table was something else. Naturally fermented with a living culture of wild yeast and bacteria, fed and passed down within the same family for generations. No packet of instant yeast, just patience, and a starter that was, in a real sense, part of the household. As that wild culture works through dough over many hours, it breaks down much of the gluten structure and produces organic acids that pre-digest the starches before the bread reaches your body. It also increases how much zinc and iron your body can absorb by neutralizing compounds in raw grain that normally block mineral uptake. For a digestive system grown more sensitive with age, that can be the difference between a slice that sits like a brick and one your body barely notices. Now, the modern gap: nearly all commercial bread today, even the artisan loaves in fancy paper, uses fast-acting yeast that skips fermentation almost entirely. Dough can go from bowl to oven in under 2 hours. You get the shape of bread without the slow chemistry that made it gentler on the body. Fermentation, not the flour, was doing the real work. To make your own starter, combine equal parts whole wheat flour and water and let it sit at room temperature for several days, feeding it daily until it turns bubbly and faintly sour. That smell means the culture is working. Use it in place of commercial yeast in any basic bread recipe from there. Be patient with it. This isn't a same-day bread. It's a relationship. And speaking of relationships worth being patient for, our next bread shows up in Scripture's most romantic book. Number 4. Wheat and Honey, Song of Songs. Hospitals around the world are using honey, actual honey, as a wound dressing right now, not a folk remedy from your aunt. Since 2011, medical-grade honey gels have carried FDA clearance for burn units and wound clinics. Because honey's natural chemistry kills bacteria, including antibiotic-resistant strains doctors worry about most, Scripture got there first. The Song of Songs describes a bride's lips as sweeter than honey and pictures the promised land as flowing with milk and honey abundance, yes. But as it turns out, literal restoration too. Combine wheat, Scripture's most celebrated grain, with raw honey in a single loaf, and you get more than something sweet. Wheat brings selenium and B vitamins your cells need to produce energy, while raw honey contributes antimicrobial compounds that support the gut lining and antioxidants that help mop up the cellular stress that accumulates with age. Why are wheat and honey named together so often in Scripture? Because nutritionally, they finish each other's sentence. The sustaining carbohydrate of grain, paired with the living enzymes of honey, Here's the catch. Most honey on supermarket shelves has been ultra-filtered and heat-processed, stripping out the pollen, enzymes, and antibacterial compounds that made ancient honey genuinely medicinal. If the label doesn't say raw and unfiltered, you're likely eating flavored syrup, not the honey scripture describes. To bake this loaf, combine 2 cups of whole wheat flour with 3 tablespoons of raw honey, a tablespoon of olive oil, a pinch of salt, and warm water until a soft dough forms. Let it rise 45 minutes. Then bake until deeply golden. Serve it warm, a small act of restoration, not just a snack. Now, if honey and wheat make a pairing worth writing poetry about, our next bread comes from a story that's a lot less romantic and a lot more relatable. A man who traded away his entire inheritance for a bowl of soup. Number 5. Lentil. Have you ever made a decision so hungry, so exhausted, that you regretted it the second your stomach was full again? Esau has you beat. In Genesis, he walks in from the field starving, smells his brother Jacob's lentil stew, and trades away his entire birthright inheritance. Position, everything for one bowl. Lentils weren't a side dish in the ancient world. They were worth more than gold to a desperate man. That value wasn't just emotional. Archaeologists have found lentils in Egyptian royal tombs and Fertile Crescent settlements dating back 8,000 to 10,000 years, making them one of the oldest crops humans have ever farmed. Ground into flour and baked into bread, lentils become a genuine ally for aging joints and muscles. They're rich in plant-based protein and folate, but the real story for anyone over 50 is their molybdenum and iron II minerals that frequently run low in older adults and are essential for enzyme function and getting oxygen to tired muscles. Lentils are also one of the most fiber-dense legumes on the planet, feeding gut bacteria that researchers now directly link to lower systemic inflammation, joints included. Here's the then versus now gap. In the ancient world, lentils were a daily staple for rich and poor alike. Today, they've been quietly demoted to a soup ingredient or a side dish, even though gram for gram, they outperform plenty of trendy modern superfood proteins on both cost and nutrition. To bake lentil bread, cook 1 cup of dried lentils until soft, then blend into a coarse paste. Combine that with 1.5 cups of whole wheat flour, a tablespoon of olive oil, and a pinch of salt. Form into a dense loaf and bake until firm. Fair warning, this bread is heavy. It's not trying to be dinner roll fluffy. It's built for a body that needs real, lasting strength, not a decision you'll regret the way Esau regretted his. Speaking of things that look unremarkable but turn out to carry a miracle inside them, let's talk about the almond. Number 6. Almond. Picture a dead, dried-out wooden staff, left overnight in a tent. By morning, it hasn't just sprouted, it's budded, blossomed, and produced ripe almonds in front of an entire camp. That's Numbers chapter 17. Aaron's staff, chosen from 12 identical rods, miraculously bearing almonds as proof no one could argue with. The image was so striking that the temple's golden lampstand in Exodus was later designed with cups shaped like almond blossoms. The plant built directly into the architecture of worship. Almonds show up even earlier. In Genesis, sent by Jacob as one of the gifts meant to win favor in Egypt. Across Scripture, this nut consistently symbolizes vitality and awakening, which sounds like exactly what a body past 50 is asking for on a rough morning. For a body managing carbohydrate sensitivity, bread made from ground almonds is a completely different animal. Almond flour is naturally low in carbohydrates, while remarkably rich in vitamin E, magnesium, and heart-protective monounsaturated fats. the same fat linked to cardiovascular protection in long-term studies. Because it contains almost no starch, almond bread produces a far gentler effect on blood sugar than traditional grain bread. The quality gap here is less ancient versus modern and more whole versus processed. Almonds themselves haven't changed, but a lot of commercial almond flour today is made from blanched, heavily processed almonds with the nutrient-dense skin removed. Look for flour made from whole raw almonds if you want it closer to the real thing. To make it, combine 2 cups of fine almond flour with 2 eggs, a tablespoon of olive oil, a half teaspoon of baking soda, and a pinch of salt. Mix into a thick batter, pour into a small loaf pan, and bake at moderate heat until firm and golden, dense, slightly nutty, and genuinely satisfying. Now, if a single almond branch could awaken overnight, what happens when an entire ancient grain gets rediscovered by the whole world at once? Number 7. Millet. In 2023, the United Nations did something it almost never does for a single crop. It gave millet its own global year. Backed by more than 70 countries, why would 70 governments rally around a grain most Western shoppers mainly associate with birdseed? Because millet has one of the lowest glycemic responses of any grain ever studied, raising blood sugar more slowly and gently than almost anything else on a plate. For a body past 50 navigating early insulin resistance, that alone can make millet bread one of the most protective foods on this list. It's also naturally gluten-free and rich in magnesium, directly tied to insulin sensitivity. Scripture already knew this. Millet appears by name in Ezekiel's siege bread instructions, alongside wheat, barley, beans, lentils, and spelt, but it earns its own spot here because of where it grew. The dry, harsh regions, where wheat and barley simply gave up, its resilience in poor soil seems to carry straight into the body, eating it. Here's the full circle twist. Millet was once dismissed as the poor man's grain, barely worth mentioning outside of famine bread. Now it's the subject of UN resolutions and a growing body of research linking it to lower rates of diabetes and heart disease. What ancient farmers understood by necessity, researchers are now proving in a lab. To bake millet bread, combine 1.5 cups of millet flour with a 1/2 cup of whole wheat flour to help with binding, a tablespoon of olive oil, and warm water. Shape into a flat, round loaf and bake until firm on the outside and soft within. It's a quiet, steady bread, no drama, just consistent fuel. The same way it quietly fed entire regions no other grain could survive in. Speaking of grains doing quiet, unglamorous work behind the scenes, let's talk about the bread that basically invented the idea of a complete protein 3,000 years before nutritionists had a name for it. Number 8. 7-grain Ezekiel bread. You can walk into most major grocery stores in America today and buy bread built from a recipe roughly 2,600 years old. It's usually in the freezer section called Ezekiel bread because the recipe comes directly from a verse in the book of Ezekiel. Wheat, barley, beans, lentils, millet, and spelt, combined into a single loaf, meant to sustain the body through siege and hardship. This wasn't a random pantry-clearing recipe. It was deliberate. Combine that many grains and legumes into one loaf, and you get what modern nutrition calls a complete amino acid profile, something no single grain achieves alone. Lentils and beans are rich in lysine, which grains lack, while grains supply the methionine legumes are missing. Together, you've built a protein source that in some respects rivals meat, wrapped in a slow-releasing carbohydrate structure that helps prevent the energy crashes common as our bodies grow less efficient at synthesizing protein with age. The modern sprouted version of this bread has actually been certified with a glycemic index around 36, genuinely low, and delivers all 9 essential amino acids in a single slice. 3,000 years before complete protein was a phrase in a textbook, this recipe had already solved for it. The then versus now comparison writes itself. Ancient families made this loaf out of desperation, using whatever survived a siege. Today it's sought out on purpose as a premium health food by people who've never missed a meal in their lives. Same formula, completely different reason for reaching for it. To recreate it, combine roughly 1/3 of a cup each of whole wheat flour, barley flour, ground lentils, ground beans, millet, and spelt. Add water gradually until a firm dough forms. Then bake low and slow until fully cooked through. One slice fills you up faster than you'd expect. This was built to sustain on very little. If this bread proves ancient instinct and modern science can land on the exact same answer, our next one proves the same thing happened around a very different kind of wound. Number 9. Fig and grain. In the book of Isaiah, King Hezekiah is dying from an infected boil, and the prophet's treatment is remarkably practical. Press a poultice of figs directly onto the wound. Hezekiah recovers. Centuries later, researchers studying fig compounds have found genuine anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial properties in the fruit scripture's home remedy. Holding up under a microscope, here's a stat that might catch you off guard. Half a cup of dried figs contains roughly the same calcium as half a cup of milk. For a fruit, that's genuinely unusual. And for anyone over 50 watching bone density, it's worth noting figs also bring potassium, another mineral aging bones and digestive systems depend on, along with natural enzymes that help the body break down food more efficiently as digestion slows with age. Throughout Scripture, figs consistently symbolize peace, provision, and healing, and unlike a bread sweetened with refined sugar, fig-sweetened bread offers real sweetness with a gentler glycemic profile, feeding beneficial gut bacteria instead of just spiking your blood sugar and crashing it an hour later. The quality gap. Traditional sun-dried figs retain far more fiber and mineral density than many mass-produced dried figs today, which are sometimes treated with sulfur dioxide or packed in sugar syrup for shelf life and looks. Check the label, it should say figs, not figs. Sugar, preservatives. To bake this bread, chop a half cup of dried figs and fold them into 2 cups of whole wheat dough, made with water, a small amount of olive oil, and a pinch of salt. Let it rise briefly, then bake until golden. The figs caramelize slightly inside the loaf, creating pockets of natural sweetness throughout, proof that gentle restoration doesn't have to taste like medicine. If figs were Scripture's answer to a wound on the skin, our next bread might be its closest answer to a wound on the inside, the kind caused by everyday inflammation. Number 10. Honey and olive oil. Here's a strange one. There's a compound in good, fresh olive oil that acts on your body almost exactly like a painkiller. It's called oleocanthal, and when researchers isolated it and published their findings in the journal Nature in 2005, they found it inhibits the very same enzymes as ibuprofen. Later studies have found it even more potent, molecule for molecule. That peppery, throat-catching sting from a really good extra virgin olive oil, that's oleocanthal announcing itself. Scripture had already paired this ingredient with another, for a reason we're only now able to explain. The Promised Land is repeatedly described as flowing with honey, and the olive tree runs through Scripture as a symbol of provision and peace. Combine the two into a flatbread, and you get fast, clean energy without the crash that comes from refined sugar. Raw honey brings a fructose-glucose blend the body absorbs more gradually than table sugar, while olive oil slows that absorption even further, smoothing the energy curve instead of letting it spike and drop. Why does this matter so much after 50? Because the body's ability to buffer blood sugar swings gets less forgiving with age, and that mid-afternoon crash is often less about how you slept and more about what fuel you ran on that morning. Here's the quality gap that matters. A large portion of the olive oil on shelves today is old, heat-processed, blended with cheaper oils, or mislabeled, and oleocanthal degrades with heat, age, and processing. If your olive oil doesn't have at least a little peppery bite at the back of your throat, it's probably lost most of what made it valuable. To make this flatbread, mix 2 cups of whole wheat flour with 3 tablespoons of olive oil, 2 tablespoons of raw honey, and warm water until a soft dough forms. Roll it thin and cook briefly on a hot, dry pan until lightly browned on both sides. Eat it warm, drizzled with a little more honey and oil, essentially the promised land on a plate. Now let's slow down for a moment, because our next bread is proof that sometimes the gentlest option is also the smartest one. Number 11. Spelt. Here's something most people don't realize. The wheat in a typical loaf today has been so heavily bred and hybridized since the mid-20th century that it barely resembles what your great-grandparents ate. One ancient grain, though, essentially got left out of that process: spelt. Spelt is named specifically in both Isaiah and Ezekiel, and genetically, it's remained largely untouched by industrial breeding for thousands of years. That matters more than it sounds like it should. Spelt has a different protein structure than modern hybridized wheat, one many people find noticeably gentler on digestion, though it still contains gluten and isn't safe for anyone with celiac disease. For everyone else, when digestive efficiency naturally declines with age, that difference can be the line between bread that drains your energy and bread that restores it. Spelt also runs notably higher in certain B vitamins than common wheat, particularly niacin and thiamine, both essential for converting food into usable cellular energy rather than fatigue. Its higher water solubility means its nutrients are more readily absorbed during digestion too. The then versus now story here runs backward compared to everything else on this list. Spelt didn't need rediscovering because it never really left. While wheat was engineered for higher yields and mass production, Spelt kept quietly doing what it had always done, largely ignored by industrial agriculture, which, in this case, turned out to be an advantage. To prepare spelt bread, combine 2 cups of whole spelt flour with 1 teaspoon of natural yeast, a pinch of salt, and warm water. Allow the dough to rest and rise for at least an hour before shaping and baking at moderate heat until golden. The result is a lighter, slightly sweet loaf that nourishes without the heaviness many associate with whole grain bread. And if spelt is the grain that quietly stayed the same while everything around it changed, our final bread today is about something else entirely: what it actually looks like to flourish, not just survive, deep into old age. Number 12. Date and grain. Here's a number worth remembering. In a study on postmenopausal women, those who got just 3 milligrams of boron a day excreted 44% less calcium in their urine, meaning their bodies held onto significantly more of the calcium they already had. Bone loss accelerates fast after menopause. Women can lose up to 10% of their bone mass in just the 5 years afterward. One of the richest natural sources of that boron is the humble date. Scripture picked up on this fruit's power long before anyone understood the mineral behind it. Dates are named throughout Scripture as a staple food of the land, and the date palm becomes a symbol of righteousness in the Psalms, where a well-nourished, Righteous life is pictured as a palm tree that keeps bearing fruit deep into old age, never drying out, always green, not just surviving old age, flourishing in it. Beyond boron, dates bring an extraordinary concentration of potassium, critical for muscle function and frequently deficient in aging bodies. Alongside natural sugars, the body processes more gradually, thanks to their fiber content. If you've ever dealt with an unexplained muscle cramp at night, potassium deficiency is a commonly overlooked culprit, and date bread addresses that through real food rather than another supplement bottle on the counter. Here's the modern gap. Dates today are often treated as a specialty item or a sugar substitute. Rather than recognized for their mineral density, look for whole, unpitted dates without added syrup if you want the version closest to what Scripture describes. To prepare this bread, blend a half cup of pitted dates with warm water until a thick paste forms. Then fold into 2 cups of whole wheat flour with a tablespoon of olive oil and a pinch of salt. Bake until firm. The natural sugars in the dates create a deep golden crust and a subtle caramel sweetness throughout the loaf, a taste that, fittingly, is a lot like what flourishing should feel like. 12 loaves. 12 different paths back to strength, and everyone was sitting in Scripture long before a lab coat confirmed why it worked. Here's the honest truth. You don't need to bake all 12 this week. Pick one whichever stuck with you most, whether that's the barley bread backed by an actual FDA claim or the date bread built to help you flourish, not just survive. Bake that one first and see how your body responds. Then tell me in the comments which bread surprised you most. The hardtack that can outlive its own baker, the honey doctors put on wounds, or just realizing your grocery store has quietly sold a 2,600-year-old recipe this whole time. If this video gave your body, and maybe your grocery list, something worth chewing on, hit subscribe. There's a lot more ancient wisdom with modern proof waiting on this channel, and genuinely, thank you for spending this time with me today. Strength after 50 isn't about willpower. Sometimes it's just about remembering what was on the table all along.